Warning: the Duracell Cup Series data file you have attempted to access is out of date. Uploading current file now.
It's a brand new car from stem to stern, and it's never been raced at these speeds.
The next gen car is opportunity.
Everything is different with the exception of like the seat, the steering wheel, and your helmet.
Unknown creates excitement.
Speed Weeks continue here from Daytona International Speedway as we get one step closer to determining what the starting lineup will look like for Season 6 Duracell Cup Series Great American Race, the Daytona 500. I'm Seth Colby, joined up here in the commentator's booth once again by Dylan Poteet. Now, Dylan, we've seen these next-gen cars make their debut in the series. We saw them in the Wreckfest that was the Clash at Bowman Gray. We saw them out for single-car runs here this past Sunday to try and see who was going to be the front row. But now, everybody wants to see what are the next-gen cars going to look like in a big pack under race-type conditions. Today in the Blame Shelly Insurance Duels, we get a little taste of just that.
Yeah, for sure. This is the first time these guys are all going to be out here together on a restrictor plate like this, and should be interesting. It looked like these cars were a handful for some of the guys and girls just in single car runs, but now we're going to be in a big pack, all, up on each other's bumpers and such, and, 3, even maybe 4 wide at sometimes, and it's going to be really interesting to see what these guys think. And this is a really good test for the second duel because they're going to really see what the first one's all about, and they may approach it a little bit differently for the second one after seeing the first race.
It's weird, right? Usually always seems like one duel, it's a survival fest, the second duel, or whichever duel, the other duel, everybody kind of minds their P's and Q's. Be interesting to see if we end up having that type of scenario here today. Now, we talked about this at the end of Sunday's qualifying session. I think it bears repeating again. From that point to today, it was an in-pound for these cars. We saw several drivers go out there and set down some really fast lap times up inside of the top 10. They were obviously trimmed out for qualifying. A lot of big names were back towards the rear of the field. We pretty much figured they were set up for race trim for these upcoming duels. So a lot of variations here today where we talk about drivers improving their position, but on the flip side, a lot of these guys that had really, really good looking qualifying efforts, they maybe fall into the back for the starting grid.
That is true. And we pointed out also a lot of the Fords seem to be really fast in qualifying. Don't know if it's going to translate to the race, but we'll have to wait and see on that. There's a lot of veterans toward the back of this pack, especially in this first duel, that I think will be coming up to the top right here towards the end of this race. I mean, I don't expect them to stay out back. It's going to be interesting for sure. And also, I want to take account that we have a few different manufacturers. That could also play into this as well, working with your manufacturer buddies. That could play in there as well, and some teammates. And could definitely be interesting to see what we're going to see. It's going to be a mixed bag for sure, I think.
You bring up the point of teammates. We know RJ Bishop's going to be starting on the pole here for this duel, subsequently from setting the, co-fastest lap on Sunday. Of course, owner
wild.
points from last season came into play and breaking that tie between himself and Levi McIntyre, who we'll see on the pole for the upcoming second duel. But, we were talking about if you start on the front row for the 500, your goal in the duels is pretty clear. Just stay out of trouble, maybe ride at the back, don't tear up that car, because if you do and you go to a backup car, you forfeit your front row starting position. But in the case of RJ, an interesting scenario here, because I was looking at the drivers that we've got in the field here today, and I noticed that he does have a teammate in Dylan Young who's going to be starting the outside of row 2. Would RJ maybe try and do everything in his power to maybe try and get the victory here today, so that way you've got Young Motorsports Fords lined up on the inside of rows 1 and 2 once we take the green flag this coming Sunday?
Yeah, that could definitely play into RJ's favor and for Dylan as well. And actually Dylan didn't even have to win this. RJ actually could stay up front and just win this, and Dylan finished second. He'll still start right behind him in third. But I mean, that could be definitely a good goal to have them together. Have somebody comfortable that you know very well, especially a teammate. At least you know at the beginning of the race when it comes to the Daytona 500. You have somebody comfortable behind you. You don't have to worry about a lot of craziness going on. But I mean, if he gets shuffled out early, I believe RJ may drop to the back and just try to ride around. Like I said, as long as he doesn't wreck the car, he doesn't have a mechanical failure, drops into the back, you know, you don't want to start very like tail end of the field. He'll do whatever he needs to do to keep that car on the pole for the 500 for sure.
It's a really good point there with the fact of talking about the fact that, RJ, if he finishes up inside the top 10, it would end up being the 4 drivers besides him that would actually fill out slots 3, 4, 5, or 3, 5, 7, and 9, the inside of the rows of the top 10 for the Daytona 500. But it's time to go down trackside, get those most famous words in motorsports, and we're getting ourselves geared up for the Blame Shelly Insurance Duel number 1 here at Daytona.
Drivers, start your engines!
So as the Toyota pace car is going to lead the field off of pit lane, you're going to see on the right side of your screen the 21 drivers taking part in this duel. You and I were kind of perusing over that lineup before we came on the air. A number of big names down there that have a big opportunity to improve their position. Who kind of stands out to you there?
I mean, he can go shotgun on the field, honestly. Think about Cody Lamas. He's got everything to gain and nothing to lose because he's already out back. I can expect him to be aggressive in this race. He's got nothing to lose. He's either going to start out back anyway or he's going to really improve his qualifying effort. I think he'll make a move toward the front. He may be patient for a little bit, but I think that 13 may sneak up there towards the end of the day. We'll be talking about him quite a bit. And also you can talk about somebody like Jessica Sheldon or Michael Norman, a couple of drivers you expect to be up front at a plate race. Also didn't have very good qualifying efforts, but it goes back to the story we have talked about basically the entire week since qualifying. Some of these drivers seem like their cars were just kind of trimmed out for qualifying. Some were just trimmed out for the race. They're already in race format, I think, for some of these like Chevys in the back especially. I feel like most of the Chevys actually seem like they're in that kind of situation where they're already ready for the 500, and they're really going to show what they've got here in the dual race, and may kind of give them a kind of, I guess, a preview for the 500, I guess you could say.
Talked about the importance of teammates. A lot of drivers here in this duel have a teammate they'll be able to work with. You've got both of the Haas Racing Toyota Camrys in this group. We've already mentioned about RJ Bishop and Dylan Young for Young Motorsports. James Qualls, Quentin Moore, they're together in this one. Carson Gum and Nick Gunther, they're in this duel. You've also got Cole Deaver starting up here towards the front, Shelton towards the back, but the S3 Motorsports Chevrolets, they could hook up. Michael Norman, Chris Dollarton out of Michael Norman Motorsports. So there's a lot of drivers that I think are going to be trying to find each other. And with different drivers having different agendas, things could get a little messy here in the first couple of laps.
Yep, trying to find your friends here early, but it's going to be a lot of work, it seems like, as we're about to go green to start this first hole.
Green flag in the air. RJ Bishop up through the gears. You've got Fords, 3 of them up inside the top 4. Cole Deaver, the lone Chevrolet, and then the Mazda of Nick Gunther, the top 5 as they head into turn number 1. Also, going to be an interesting thing to see here today. You know, we saw the drivers testing out different lanes, trying to find the grip, trying to find the speed in single car runs. It'll be interesting to see here today which line will be preferred. Will drivers more migrate down to that double yellow line? Will they try the middle groove? Will we see a third line form? I mean, how anxious are they going to get here?
Well, it looks like RJ is already trying to control the draft. I was kind of surprised he jumped to the top, but they had a little bit of momentum coming off 2 there, and he came back down right in front of the 83 that we had talked about. Good run for Hoer, I think you say Hoover.
Yeah,
I'm not really good with
Hoer,
names.
yep.
Yeah, and it looks like he's still controlling the draft. The 83 followed him, but now he lost the spot on the bottom. And I also want to kind of throw in another note here with Nick Gunther's situation. I'm really curious how that Mazda is going to run. Being the only one, as he almost got under RJ, he's going to get put in the middle here now, but I'm curious how that car is going to run. I mean, this is a good test, like I said, going on a plate track. Don't know what, we've never seen a Mazda before run in this series, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that car and see how it runs well. I know he's probably going to be aligned with the Chevys for the most part, since his teammates are Chevys, but nonetheless, it'll be interesting to see how it is. We got a battle for the lead already.
That's Noah Hendrickson, the rookie in the Krispy Kreme Toyota Camry, going to go to the front, and looks like RJ Bishop's kind of throwing up his hands saying, okay, Alright, you've taken the lead from me. I'm gonna try and see if I can migrate my way to a safe spot here at the back, but he's up top 3 wide, as that's what, 3-4 rows deep of 3 wide here through the tri-oval.
Yeah, he's definitely not in a good spot for sure. You think you want to get to the back. Well, there's not really a way to get to the back when you're on the outside of 3 wide. You're kind of stuck there, and he's at the mercy of the rest of the pack to keep it together and not have a wreck here. And as we see Carson Gum now take the lead in the 19. See, a lot of these guys look like came from the back. Like Dollarton started out back. He's already worked up there. I mean, we talked about Cody Lamas. See the 44. Banks, he's up there as well. These guys all started, like, I think, bottom 10 of this field. And Michael Norman as well. Like I said, Cream runs to the top, it looks like. I guess it's going to be a little bit earlier than we expected.
So obviously this has got to be encouraging with the fact that we're seeing them be able to go 3 wide several rows deep here with basically a full field split in half. And to your point, with the fact we've got so many of the drivers right now that started outside of the top 15, now up inside of the top 5, only 3 laps in, that's got to be encouraging if you're a driver here today that would have, based off of single car qualifying, start up inside the top 10, and by the end of this thing you find yourself on the grid outside of the top 20. Looks like the ability to move to the front of the field is definitely there if you've got a strong car and you've got someone willing to push you.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Like I said, just look at the drivers up front here. It didn't take them no time to get up there, but as soon as we say that, now they're starting to fall back. So looks like the racing so far with these cars seem to be pretty competitive. It seems like you can kind of work your way up there and then get your way back to the front. It seems like just in a matter of maybe 5 laps. But nonetheless, like still Reese Banks not showing any source of like being scared of this to be in the front. Definitely holding his own up there at the front, trying to hang on to the lead over Michael Norman. He's getting a battle here for second. I believe that's the 43 of Chris Dollarton going underneath him, his teammate. Kind of surprised they didn't stick together.
Dollarton's got a Ford pushing him. Sam Ryder in the 63.
Few Fords up there actually right now. Got another one right behind him as well, looks like.
It's Benjamin Snyder in the 74. And you bring up the fact there, you know, the 44 of Reese Banks, donning those rookie stripes, but certainly not afraid to charge his way to the front. It bears repeating that just because they're wearing rookie stripes here in the Duracell Cup Series, it doesn't mean they don't have racing experience. A number of these drivers that we'll see battling in the rookie class this year, they run over in other series here on YouTube. It's just the first time that they've taken part in a Duracell Cup Series race. So just because they're coming into this race in the rookie class doesn't mean that they're coming in cold turkey and have never gotten behind the wheel of a race car before.
Brian, some of these drivers have been around for a little while, and you see rookie stripes, your first initial thought is, oh, I don't want to work with that guy. He doesn't know what he's doing. But the plate races especially are the ultimate equalizers, and it gives anybody an opportunity, I think, a fair shot to win these races. And just watching the 44, he's able to block 3 lanes of traffic there to keep the lead. I don't think, like I said, you don't have to have the experience for sure like that, but, I mean, he's showing definitely that he can do it, and he's willing that car right now up front.
Case in point on what rookies can do here in Duracell Cup Series competition. Last season, Roberto Crown Jr. as a rookie was a 2-time winner. The season before that, Cole Deaver had his rookie season and was a multi-time winner. So they can definitely get it done as Ryan Butcher's going to go to the top position. All of a sudden, the Toyota's flexing some muscle as the defending Daytona 500 winner, Matt Haas, going to push him to the point.
That was another driver we really didn't talk about. He had an unfortunate deal in qualifying. We believe he got in the wall, and he just didn't have the lap he was looking for. We expected him to qualify up front, but for sure run up front. And looks like they get separated from his Toyota buddy there by Nick Gunther. But that 8 car, I think, will be around toward the end of this as well. And when we get to the 500, I think he's definitely going to be one of the favorites for sure. He's got the experience. He has the wins to back it up, and I think he'll be up there for sure, as Butcher right now is hanging on to the lead. Dylan Young's worked his way back up here. We haven't seen him since, like, I guess probably lap 1 or 2, and he's worked his way back up here, and he's going for the lead.
Yeah, Dylan Young started on the outside of row 2, and we saw the outside line kind of turn into a 3rd lane, and he fell to the back, but now working his way up to the front with help from the 66 of Zachary Fitzwater. We apologize that the ticker's not working. Before we came on the air, we ended up having the game crash, and so apparently it didn't reset the ticker, so we'll have the ticker up and running for the second duel. But I mean, you can kind of see the whole field here in one shot coming off of turn 4, so you get a general idea of where everybody's running. But with it being a 30-lap event here today, we do have to remember that we remain green. Pit stops will more than likely come into play. Fuel window for these drivers at the super speedways somewhere in the range of 20 to 22 laps at Daytona, usually 19 to 21 at Talladega. So these drivers, they'll have to start thinking about coming to pit road at some point in this race, whether they decide to do it once the fuel window opens or stretch it as far as they possibly can. And that could split up the field a bunch. So not only do you maybe have to kind of communicate with your teammates, but you got to communicate with some other drivers, because the more friends you come to pit road and leave with, the better chance you have of being able to stay up at the front after the green flag pit stop cycle through.
And that is true, and that would be the one and only opportunity, I believe, will be at going down pit road. And if you have a bad pit stop, you basically just say, I'm starting in the back for Sunday. So that's your one opportunity to really make or break the race, and that could be, your race could be beat on pit road. As our pole sitter, RJ Bishop, has found his way back to lead here on lap 10. Guess it didn't take very long, and he's feeling racy today in that 98 car.
Yeah, I mean, if the thing's handling fine, and he may have actually fallen to the back, tried to figure out what that car was going to feel like handling-wise. We mentioned the fact that usually when you got a car trimmed out for qualifying, it's a handful when you're in traffic, but I guess he found a comfort level and decided, all right, let's test and see what this thing can do. And what a statement it would be for either RJ Bishop or Levi McIntyre to win their respective duels following up their qualifying laps. That certainly would have to turn heads in the garage of, hey, this might be the car to beat.
Yeah, that's for sure. It kind of proved to everybody as well. It wasn't just a trimmed out speed setup, that they actually had a race car that's fast enough to win the pole and potentially win the race itself here today. I was about to say something about the O2 there. Jessica Shelton I thought we were getting ready to get the lead and kind of got crossed up there by a couple of cars. I think Michael Norman snuck under her there, but I keep noticing, like, it seems like a lot of these manufacturers seem like they're finding each other. I was looking at a couple of Fords, they were just there, and I see a bunch of Chevys now in the rearview mirror of the top two.
We mentioned the fact that there were a lot of Fords up at the top of the speed charts during pole day qualifying, and it's also been documented that when it comes to super speedway racing, the Fords are usually the best pushers because they've got that somewhat flat front nose to be able to lock up to your back bumper. The pointier nose on the Chevrolets and the Toyotas, not as easy to be able to keep the bumpers locked. So we're seeing right here how the 98 and the 22, they've actually opened up a little bit of daylight, about a car length back there to Quentin Moore.
Yeah, I was going to say, Norman was packed up underneath that 98 of RJ Bishop, but as soon as I said that, the 89 and the 66 got a heck of a run right there, and now they're going to try to get under Michael at least and split up the top two. The 66, Fitzwater is looking for more. He's like, thanks for the help, 89, but I got to go.
Almost looked like, I'm not sure if Quentin Moore was trying to time the move that Fitzwater made on the back straightaway, or if he was maybe trying to throw a block, but you're not going to lift in this kind of a situation, especially when you consider the fact that Daytona is such a momentum track. You breathe the throttle just a little bit, everybody else is going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and Fitzwater wasn't wasting any time to get to the lead, but I think he kind of made a tricky mistake there. He moved up. I guess he thought Cole Deaver was going to follow him, and he just went right on by him and took the lead.
Cole Deaver, of course, he would have started third for the Daytona 500 if we didn't have these dual races, because he was P3 in pole day qualifying, so trying to preserve his starting spot here in the Daytona 500, at least up inside of the top five, as Dylan Young going to go to the point. And now we don't have the manufacturers working together on the inside line. We had Ford, Chevrolet, Mazda, and Toyota that time out of turn number 4.
Yeah, I just watched Darlington just block 3 lanes of traffic. That got a little sketchy there for a minute. I was going to bring up a couple guys we hadn't really talked about. One of them right up the middle there in the 70, James Qualls. I think he kind of hung out back most of the race. He had a run there, and then the middle kind of died out, but he's trying to work his way up there for the first time. We hadn't really seen him make any moves, but another veteran probably just taking his time, knows what to expect, just kind of biding his time, is Nick Gunther now trying to get the lead. I think it'll be the first time we see a Mazda take the lead if he can get up there underneath Dylan Young.
Right, yeah.
There's a lot of history being made right now with this car being on track anyway, as is. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of pressure. You know, Mazda coming in and doing this thing with the Fortnite Squad Racing. I mean, they're usually a Chevy team, but they decided one of these teams is going to run a Mazda. Oh, Nick was trying to block the 8 there, almost got turned into the wall. But yeah, I mean, people probably look at him as a Chevy team, but I mean, that's just, there's a lot on the line probably for this Mazda team. Just a lot of representation for this car to run good and show off what they can do, maybe become a bigger part in the sport later on.
Yeah, we've seen him actually fight his way up to the front a couple of times already, and one thing I've failed to do, and I'll try and take notice of it this next time if he makes his way to the front again, is if he's got drivers that are willing to help him, or if he's actually making his way to the front on his own with moves through the field, because you talked about with the fact that, this is a manufacturer that's never been the Duracell Cup Series before, a lot of drivers with question marks on how well they can draft with it, so not certain if he's really getting a whole lot of help here. Drivers kind of going to school on how do you draft a Mazda? How well will a Mazda help push you?
Yeah, I'm not really sure how the body lines up, and I don't know if it's like mostly similar to like how the Chevys are, or if it's maybe unique like a Toyota. Yeah, I'm not really quite sure. I don't know the specs of a Mazda in this series, but nonetheless, I think everybody's kind of learning.
It's on the generic chassis, so I know that like there's a number of different manufacturers. I think Honda has been put on the generic template. I think there was actually a Dodge that was put on the generic template, so it's got more of a rounded nose. So if you kind of think back to the old Dodge Intrepid, it's kind of similar to that kind of a chassis on the front.
And the Dodges were pretty fast back then too, so maybe that'll be a beneficiary for Nick Gunther in that 55 team. We got the 78 has worked his way back to the lead there, Ryan Butcher. I'm seeing a couple of drivers that are kind of sticking out to me a lot that maybe players, like I said, not just for today, but for Sunday. The 78's been pretty fast. The 44 we saw was pretty fast. Dylan Young's been up there. RJ's showed some speed. I've seen some guys that seem like they work their way from the back to the front relatively quick. And but again, some drivers may not be showing their cards just yet. That 02 definitely is one of them I'm thinking is kind of hanging around, just seeing what they got. Jessica Sheldon and Cody Lamas as well, Michael Norman. Some of these drivers we expect to be up front.
We're getting pretty close to when these drivers will absolutely have to come to pit road. Wow, right on cue. It's almost like I planned that one.
As the whole, this is scary. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And we got two lone drivers sticking it out for another lap there.
A couple of rookies there, Quentin Moore and Reggie Fogelman.
They may have not got the memo there. Now, that may or may not hurt them because they're going to be a two-car pack, and they need to get out together. If not, they're probably going to lose the pack because they're going to be a whole pack here together.
Now, that was a huge group of cars, as you mentioned, and I was going to bring up, before they came to pit road, there's no points on the line. All drivers taking part will make the Daytona 500 regardless of where they finish in these duels. Would you have taken this opportunity to maybe be a little bit more aggressive on pit entry, kind of test the waters in preparation for the 500? But with the fact we had so many drivers come to pit lane, I'm not really sure that option was open, especially for the drivers mid to rear of that group.
I wouldn't even want to have been in that pack. That was scary. It was like rush hour right there. I think that maybe while these guys didn't pit, they may have thought they may wreck or they may have a big checkup and all stack up and everything. But yeah, these guys hadn't practiced pitting. I mean, that was definitely something probably in the notebook they had to kind of figure out and get ready for Sunday. So for the most part, I don't think there was any issues on that first stop as we got the other two cars now on pit road. And I guess we'll see now what happens and see if we got a little spaced out on the pack. 78 Butcher still out front. Got a couple of cars. There is a little bit of a gap, though.
There is. I think there's only going to be about 4 cars maybe in this lead pack if Shelton can latch on to the top trio of Butcher, Hendrickson, and Norman.
Yeah, it could have been a big congestion in pit road. Some guys probably had to check up for each other, and it may have really spaced it out. There's the two leaders. Yeah, they're not going to be in this front pack for sure. Yeah, I'm actually trying to find the rest of the pack. It is pretty spaced out now. Like, there's only a handful of cars.
Back here, Lamas, Snyder, Cole Deaver, Zachary Fitzwater, and Chris Dollarton.
And it looks like the 24 here is going to fall in this pack. Reggie Fogelman. I think if he can get up to speed, he can latch onto this pack. And I believe ahead of him is the 89. Quentin Moore, I think, may end up migrating back in this pack. So they may have to try to work together here. Actually, he's by himself, which is not good at all for him. But the thing for the second pack, they're going to have to get either single file or get hooked up pretty quickly if they're going to have any chance to catch that front pack. Because there's only going to be about 10 or 11 laps to go. And I don't know if anybody else is going to catch these front couple of packs. I mean, the rest of the pack is pretty far back. So this may be the battle for the win for the duel.
Well, the one thing that might help them is if these top 4 race each other. If they get side by side, they're going to be stalling each other out. They're not going to get that optimal straight line speed. So I saw them a brief moment as they've now gotten single file, but they actually were double wide, 2 rows deep. If they continue to do that, that could open up the door for drivers like Cody Lamas and that second pack to maybe be able to reel them in, because there's still going to be 10 laps to go when we hit the line. There still is time. It's not like there's only 2-3 laps left in the running where basically race would be over for those guys and they'd just be battling for 5th.
I'm just looking at Michael Norman's best lap compared to the last lap. Look at the speed difference just because the pack has been dissolved and picked apart. Well, as I say that, he's back up now. Maybe
Oh,
it was
still
just a slow
3
lap.
tenths off, though.
Yeah, so we can kind of keep an eye. That'd be the thing we have to watch is these times for some of these guys in the pack and the other packs if they're gaining on them. We probably can go back and check on maybe Cody or maybe the 89, see what their laps are.
46-1 there for
and they may have
Cody.
caught the 89 that last
They
lap
did,
by.
you're
So
right, yep. They got
and
Quentin
the
Moore in
24
that group.
The 24 actually did not get in this pack. He must have drifted to the 3rd pack. Yeah, I was a little confused, like, how many cars didn't get in this pack. There they are. Now they're running 45.7. That's about the same as the leaders. And we got a bunch of the small packs, which is not good for the guys in the back because they need more cars to gain out of that front lead. But everybody's running about 5 or 6 cars, it looks like.
Yeah, second pack right now is battling for 5th position. I'll see where Sam Ryder crosses the line here. Pack 3 is battling for 11th at this point in time. You got Fogelman, Banks, Qualls, Young, Gunther in this for RJ Bishop. I mean,
Yep, there he is.
The smaller the pack, the better his chances of keeping that car in one piece. So I guess he's not all that disappointed. And then you got some stragglers back here. Carson Gum and Matt Haas, they've lost the pack. Benjamin Miles all the way back here in 20th. And then not sure what happened there with the 83 of Will Howard. One would have to assume that either those drivers might have been towards the very tail end of that big group when they came to pit roads. They had a much slower entry or may have had a mistake on pit road. But I guess better to get the kinks out now than in the 500 when the points are starting to get paid out.
Yeah, that's true. And got an interesting blend up here at the front of the pack. You got a couple of veterans here, Michael Norman and Jessica Sheldon. And then you got the rookie here in the 80 in Noah Hendrickson. And the 78, I believe, is fairly new as well, I believe. Ryan Butcher, if I'm
Ryan
correct.
Butcher's a mainstay veteran. He's been here since season 1.
Well, we got 3 main drivers here, and then we got 1 rookie. So I'm trying to picture how this is going to play out, and I see this as the rookie's probably going to get sent to school here.
Well, I mean, at the same time, though, you've got 2 Toyotas. So one would have to assume the Toyotas are going to work together here. Michael Norman, Jessica Shelton, they don't have any manufacturer teammate up in this lead group.
That's true, but they also know each other pretty well. It doesn't always necessarily have to be the manufacturer. Like I said, these drivers know each other, and they've been around for a while, and they've worked together either on YouTube or even an online series. And, Jessica and Michael would work together probably if they got together. And as soon as I said that, Jessica just kicked the rookie out of line, and now they're nose to tail. Seems like right now Michael's had control of this front pack, but with less cars, there's not as much energy for these drivers to make runs to be able to get around these guys. So this actually may benefit Michael more, like I said, in this situation to be able to hang on to the lead.
As they run right now, this would be a huge improvement in starting position for the 500 for Norman and Shelton. Michael would have, prior to the duel, been scheduled to roll off 33rd. Shelton would have rolled off 35th. Right now, with where they're running, crossing the line there, they would be starting 3rd and 5th for the Daytona 500 this Sunday.
Yeah, that's what we talked about. We brought that up at the beginning of the race. Those drivers in the back, I didn't think they were going to be back there very long. But that pit stop definitely did shuffle things up, and it's worked in the favor for Norman and Shelton. But like I said, net gain is going to be big regardless where they finish in the top 4 if these guys are not able to catch up. And what these guys here would need to do, they would really need to be in a single file line like this, but unfortunately it's not looking that way.
I think they've thrown in the towel. I think they've said there's no way we're catching them. Let's just try and figure out who's going to get 5th. Yeah, who's going to get that final spot in the top 10.
Cody Lum, as we talked about at the beginning of the race, was going to be he started last in this duel, so he's definitely going to make a big improvement here on his qualifying effort. So he's definitely happy about that for sure. Some of these other guys, I believe, are towards the back. Deaver would probably be one of the big losers right now because he started this race second. He would have been up there, and he's I think in 10th place now, so he would kind of lose some spots here.
Yeah, he'd be 19th on the 500 grid as a result. And actually, correction on my part, I said that these drivers would be battling for 9th if they finished 5th, forgetting the fact that RJ Bishop being the pole sitter, so actually these drivers would be battling for 11th position, first spot outside of the top 10.
Yep, and we're seeing a lot of the guys toward the back seem like they kind of rose to the top here as trying to see if Sheldon is maybe trying to potentially work with Erickson here, or Hendrickson, sorry, I don't know where Erickson
He showed
from.
the nose there through the tri-oval.
Yeah, Sheldon gave Hendrickson there a good push. I don't know why I said Erickson, but I did anyway. So
Happy
one
Leaf
of those
Hendrickson
things.
Day.
I guess so. And these three are starting to actually gap the 78 just a
are,
little
yeah.
bit. He's struggling to hang on. Don't see anybody up ahead, so I don't think they're going to run into any issue here. But, well, I was going to say if Sheldon would give Hendrickson a little bit of a shove down the straightaway, I think he had a shot at Norman, but she's got a different agenda, it looks like, to try to get back around that 80 car.
Also, consider the fact that with it being the single car file the way we're seeing right now, and you're right up on somebody's back bumper, you got to keep an eye on your water temps. You may not be able to stay tucked up to somebody as long as you might like. That might be why Shelton backed off, kind of went a little offline of the 80, trying to get some clean air to the nose, cool that water temperature down potentially.
Yeah, it could be, and she's still sticking her nose out there. I don't know if she's, like you said, trying to cool the car down, or if she's trying to make a move, but
Might
with
be
only
saying,
being
hey,
4
80,
cars.
I'm here, come on down.
Yeah, I mean, and he's not getting a lot of help from behind with the 78. When the laps are winding down, well, there's going to run here. She looks like she's ready to go, but the 80's be patient, and now it's going to cost him probably second and third.
Shelton's going to have
Norman's
a bit of a
loving
gap
it.
between herself and Norman, so if Butcher can stay on her back bumper, she's going to have a big run on Michael by the time they get to turn number 1. 2 laps to go here in this duel. This is the first Blame Shelly Insurance duel of the day. We've still got the second one coming up, another 30-lapper. And, you know, obviously you mentioned the fact that the drivers that are in that second duel, they've got the opportunity to be able to observe what's happening here in duel number 1. So you're one of those duel 2 drivers. You're taking notes. What are some of the things that you're noticing here that you're then going to apply when you take the green flag for duel 2?
Well, these guys have been extra clean for the most part in this race. I was kind of surprised by that for sure, but
So
I mean,
duel
they're
2
seeing
is the survival one, based off what I said at the
could be.
beginning.
Yeah, that'd definitely be the case. And you're seeing the opportunities to get runs, and they're able to see you could drop to the back and you're capable of getting back to the front, it looks like, with these cars. So it's all about timing, and maybe even take some notes on the pit stop because, I mean, look how spaced out it got. You just need to be up front probably right when it's time for pit stops. It seemed like that was very key for these guys, as I believe we just took the white flag.
We did indeed. Michael Norman taking the white flag here. Can he lead them back around to capture the checkered flag and start third for the Great American race? I mean, RJ Bishop, I don't think would be too disappointed about that because that'd be a fellow blue oval that would be on the inside line with
There's
him.
the Toyotas.
They're working to... No, they're not. Well, I thought they
Well,
were.
it looked good. I think the rookie there is just a little over anxious to get back up there and kind of
He
pulled
saw
like
2 positions.
That's kind of an Austin Cindric Ryan Blaney moment there in this year's actual duel race when they didn't want to work together.
Almost
And
kind
that's all
of a
Michael
Kyle
Norman wrote.
Busch, Alex Bowman as well.
Yep. All she wrote for Michael Norman.
Norman's going to take the duel win. So Michael Norman, who, as I mentioned before, would have started 33rd for the Daytona 500, is going to have a net gain of 30 positions.
He just erased one of the 3s off. He's now third.
Yep, pretty much.
There you go. And Shelton, she started out back as well. She was going to be, I think, right behind in 35th. Now she's going to be, looks like, 9th. So
Hendrickson, who got 2nd, he would have been 13th, I believe. And he'll be 5th. And then Ryan Butcher
7th,
would have
wasn't it?
been 11th. And he is now going to be 7th place.
Yep, that is right. Yeah, I got confused. Yeah, Shelton's 9th.
No,
and then
believe me, I was
Butcher's-
doing the same.
yeah.
I was having the same problem.
I was double checking because, well, and RJ, as far as we know, I think we checked back on him. I think he survived,
Yeah,
so
he
he's going to
did.
keep his
Yep.
pulsing spot. There he is.
So mission
Finished 12th,
successful.
but doesn't matter.
Wow, last lap that he ran was his fastest lap of the race. How about that?
Well, I wonder if they were starting to gain. It looks like 2 of these packs merged together.
Yeah, like they were,
so
like Pack 3 was about to catch Pack 2. Yeah.
just ran out of time, unfortunately. But I bet a lot of these drivers are just happy to keep their cars in one piece and just get ready for the big one now.
So now, as we take a look at the finishing results, these are the drivers, aside from the 98, who will start on the pole. If you go on from Michael Norman on down, this would be 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, the entire inside line for the grid. And still a couple of drivers a bit surprising back there. And granted, the green flag pit stops played their part into it. But, you know, we didn't see the best qualifying efforts out of Carson Gum, Matt Haas, Benjamin Miles, and really didn't improve their positions after this one. I think the biggest loser I'm noticing here was Dylan Young. Dylan would have was what, 4th on the lineup, and he finishes 14th, so he could be all the way back in 27th.
Well, Will Hoer also, I think, was right in front of him in third, and he ended
Right,
up
yep.
finishing 20th. So he basically flip-flopped what Michael Norman did. He's going to go from the front to the back. So that's unfortunate. I'm not really sure what happened to a couple of those guys that lost the main pack. Maybe to stack up or had an issue on the pit stops. Also, that may be another thing. We didn't really even speak about it. These cars have just the single lug nut, so these teams are really still getting used to that. So that could also play into some issues on pit road and all that.
It's taken a lot of getting used to for the drivers, the engineers, as we saw with the pull day qualifying, the crew chiefs, and to your point, the pit crews as well. We'll see if the pit crews observed what took place here in Duel 1 in preparation for the upcoming second duel. So we will be showing you after Duel 2 what the Daytona 500 starting lineup looks like based off of this first duel's results. We are going to take a quick commercial break as they'll be rolling out those remaining 21 cars for the upcoming second 30-lap Blame Shelly Insurance duel. And as they do that, we will be back in just a few moments for duel number 2 here at Daytona. We welcome you back to the Daytona International Speedway, getting ready for our second duel of the day. If you're just joining us, Michael Norman took the checkered flag in duel number 1, and in between the time that the drivers wheeled their cars back to the garage area, completing duel number 1, and these cars were ferried out onto pit road to grid up for duel number 2, the unpredictable Florida weather has moved in, and we no longer can see the sun's smiling face. A little overcast here, so maybe a little bit more grip, higher speeds to prepare for duel number 2.
And maybe more opportunities for these drivers to make some crazier moves. We had talked about it. One seems to be calm in real life. One may be chaotic. I don't know if that's going to be the case today, but we got a lot of hungry drivers up here wanting to do that. But, you know, one driver is definitely not going to be doing that as the guy on the pole for this one, Levi McIntyre. He wants to keep that second position to start the Daytona 500. He doesn't want to start out back. He wants to keep that car in one piece and show what he's got for the big race.
Same scenario as RJ Bishop. Just keep that number 99 Ford Mustang in good shape. Don't go to a backup car. He's going to lead us to the green. Got a heck of a jump there. Almost wonder if maybe that was planned. I mean, see him move right up there in front of fellow Ford Rick Johnson, and now they migrate their way down to the bottom. Kind of that Joey Logano okie dokie maybe taking place here at the start of this duel.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that or Rick Johnson just kind of fell asleep on the start, but got a good awakening. Oh, we're already seeing some aggressive blocking. Man, Rick Johnson was not going to let Anthony McCurry go by, but nonetheless, they fly by Levi, who looks like he's standing still. They were hooked up maybe for a second there, tandeming. That was interesting with a Chevy pushing a Ford, but Rick, being a rookie, I guess he wanted to control the race, but rookie was taken to town right there, I guess, on that lesson.
McCurry going to go to the lead, but an interesting thing there, too, when Rick Johnson put that block on McCurry, it almost looked like there was a bit of a bubble push from the 61 to the 93, because he carried a lot more momentum into turn 3 than McCurry did.
Yeah, that's for sure, and it may have been why he washed up a little bit. The handling on these cars may have also been changed with weather conditions going in a different direction from before, because we've only been in the sunlight for the most part, I think in qualifying and all of like speed weeks and such, and even in the first duel. Now these drivers are in different conditions. I don't think the drivers in the first one could have really told them what to expect from a cloudy, overcast condition like this right now. They're just kind of going out there and winging it right now, as we got the 38 car taking the lead here, and Jose Mills is trying to hang on, and the Fords are showing back up again.
They
looks
are.
like.
You got all four. You got four of the top 5 spots taken up by the blue ovals right now. Daniel Voiles in that 26, now going to get stuck in the middle line. That's Destin Bolin, who's going to be on the inside line with help from the Chevrolet of Ali Liera. An interesting thing to kind of point out, Michael Norman winning the first duel. To my recollection, we've never had a team sweep the duels here in the Duracell Cup Series, and there are 2 Michael Norman Motorsports Fords in this duel, the aforementioned 33 of Mitchell Collins, as well as the, I just lost them.
93.
93, thank you, yeah, Rick Johnson.
And we talked about a lot of these guys. It's kind of like in the first race, well, kind of like how Michael was one of those drivers that worked their way from the back to the front, and we're seeing a bunch of them now working their way up here again. We see, like I say, the 16 here, Ali Aguirre, there's up there, Jesse Turner, Austin LaPlante. I think Kyle Matthews started back there, Charles Sanford, Dylan Poteet. So there's a lot of drivers back here. Like I said, I'm not surprised to see them coming in front. Again, it looks like a lot of the Chevys that just didn't have the speed in qualifying, but they definitely have the race speed for sure, as they're already working their way up. There's only lap 4, and they're already most of them are in the top 10.
And we are 3 wide all the way through this 21 car pack.
Yeah, that's I don't know if we've seen that many 3 wide battles in the first one, but nonetheless, here we are with this.
I don't think we saw 3 wide all the way through the field in Duel 1, and mentioned at the top of the program, it always seems like we have one duel where everything is clean, and usually we end up having that pit stop that shakes everything up, and then the duel aside from that ends up being a wreck fest. I mean, so far they've kept it clean. A lot of space I'm seeing being given here in these 3 lanes. Not a whole lot of pinching. The blocking's been aggressive, but at least for the most part right now, things looking okay. But at the same time, it only takes that one wrong move, that one mistake to have catastrophic results.
That is true. As now we see Caleb Fogler, one of the co-champions, I could say reigning champions, which is something, not very much heard of ever, but in one of those unique situations there with Kyle Matthews, it's just kind of crazy to think we have 2 reigning champions. Oh, Joshua Osborne was ready to fill that hole, and 28 car did not allow that to happen. But I mean, you got a couple drivers here. There's a lot of pressure on them, and both of them being co-champions basically. There's going to be a lot of pressure on them to run good this season, because everybody's going to be out to get them and take that spot for sure. We'll see how that works out. Man, Joshua Osborne is being extremely aggressive in that 27 car.
Slicing and dicing, but now he's going to get caught in the middle potentially. Laura Chung shows the nose to the inside. Ooh, Osborne thought about throwing the block there. Made a little move to the left going into turn 3, but thought better of it. And I'm almost wondering if the fact that we've got this overcast weather, the speeds are going to be a little bit higher, I'm noticing. I think that in a pack, drivers were going about 194, 195 going into turn 1. They're registering upwards of 196, 197 right now. So obviously there's a little bit more grip with the cooler track conditions. That means that a run is going to be generated a lot quicker as well, which might be why these drivers feel the need to throw these aggressive blocks, stop that momentum.
That is true, as we see Rick Johnson actually battling with the 34 car, probably a fan favorite car in Nathan Orman with the Disney sponsorship, Disney Plus, obviously Disney World down here in Florida, just a little bit away from here in Orlando. Definitely going to have a lot of people probably rooting for that car when it comes to Sunday. Now we got Rick Johnson here with help from the 87 car, Ryan Brommer, and see what they can do here. Like Rick, I guess he thought the 87 was going to work with him there, and he kind of left the bottom open. And McCurry, we've already seen he's a good pusher. I mean, Rick probably also thought about that as well. As I say that, they're going to be nose to tail. He probably already had his good feel of the 61 for the day.
Now, we ended up seeing Toyotas in Duel 1 do pretty well. You had both Noah Hendrickson and Ryan Brommer finish up inside of the top 4. You got Laura Chung and Ryan Brommer in this one. I mean, obviously an opportunity during that break that we had between Duel 1 and Duel 2 for drivers to be able to talk to the teammates that took part on the racetrack in duel number 1, get some information on just how the cars handle, how to be able to manipulate the drafts. I mean, who to work with, how to work your way to the front. A lot of strategy being able to be given from driver to driver. Oh gosh, Rick Johnson. That's a teammate right there that he nearly chopped the nose off of.
They're driving like Team Penske teammates. There's no, like, you know what's given.
Who's the Michael McDowell in the situation there?
Could be that 47.
Could be. Could very well be.
That's a driver, Jesse Turner. It's kind of like Cody Lamas in the first duel. He has everything to go for and everything to gain, nothing to lose. Because honestly, he starts last, so any position gained in this race is a plus anyway. So he's just trying to improve his spot. He's got nothing to lose. But there's drivers, like I said, Levi McIntyre and a couple of guys that start up toward the front that don't want to be anywhere around those kind of moves that could potentially cause a big wreck. And a lot of these teams don't want to go to a backup car this late in the going in the week. You go into the Daytona 500 with a basically brand new car. You haven't been in it all week. And then you're going to go and take the green flag and be like, what do I got underneath me now?
And Ali Oliera out in front for a moment. Destin Bolin now out in front. Jose Mills took a turn out in front prior to that. I feel like Jose Mills is going to be public enemy number 1 this season. And not for a bad reason, but just the fact he's the most winningest driver in the Duracell Cup Series. And the driver that was close to taking that title away from him, Jordan Lopez, the former Duracell Cup Series champion, not in the field here this season. So it's kind of brought a couple new names into the conversation that might be able to catch him if they're able to get 2, 3, 4 wins this season. Carson Gumb's in that conversation. Jesse Turner out in front here is in that conversation. So too is Ryan Butcher. So it'll be interesting to see if by the end of Season 6, Jose Mills still holds the title as most winningest driver in Duracell Cup Series competition.
That is true. It definitely probably would like to keep that record intact as we got a 3-wide battle for second. Keith Batson's going to sneak under the 28th there. Haven't really talked about Keith Batson or Daniel Voiles, who just took the lead. A couple of Fords. I think they started midway through the pack. Now they're up here 1-2. But yeah, it's been a lot going on. And I also want to mention something that probably was brought up with these drivers that really wasn't probably taken account as seriously as it actually was the pit stop. We saw what happened there. About lap 17, 18 is when those two round the pit stops happened, and we saw the whole pack being together there, and a lot of them ended up losing the front pack. So I'm wondering if these drivers around that lap are going to get very antsy to get back towards the front, because we saw from the last one, it seemed like if you're up front, that was your best chance to be up there to battle for the win because it got so spaced out and congested. So these guys may get super aggressive, maybe towards, like, I don't know, lap 15 possibly.
Or do you think that maybe with what drivers, when they end up being about mid-pack rear of the field, when that green flag pit stop, if it happens, takes place, they may be thinking, all right, we got to be a lot more aggressive. We can't be checking up for those drivers up ahead. If they're going to slow up that much, we've got to find ourselves a different lane to get onto pit road because we can't afford to give up all that track position.
That is true. I mean, again, they didn't have the experience with coming to pit road that much in these cars, and the brakes, everything's different on these cars from what they're used to seeing. Rob Evans back there was trying to make an aggressive block on Osborne. But yeah, I mean, just have to be careful with it because they don't know what they really got. This is going to be their first test with it. But, I mean, you don't want to be too aggressive and potentially wreck yourself and some others and ruin other teams' days and yourself. You don't want to have to, like I said, go back and go to the drawing board and fix a car up or have to go to a backup car if not necessary.
You say aggressive block on that 65. I'm thinking maybe just a little bit of ill handling because remember, Rob Evans was, I think it was 8th in pole day qualifying, so it was certainly one of those drivers and cars that were trimmed out for qualifying. Maybe doesn't feel all that happy when it's in the middle of a 3-wide situation.
Yeah, that'd definitely be the case. I couldn't imagine what these guys are feeling and girls in the middle. These cars, I bet it's a handful, honestly, being in the middle of a 3-wide situation. I mean, the cars is drive completely different. These guys are having to get used to how the air is around it, how it affects the car and the driving, the abilities and such. But, yeah, it's a whole new ball game for sure.
I'm trying to remember exactly when the drivers came to pit lane.
I want to say it was 17
I think
or
you're
18.
Right. I'm almost
I thought
wondering
it was
if we
gonna be
might
later.
come a little bit earlier, maybe a lap earlier, because the speeds are higher with the track being overcast and a little bit of grip. So I would think with the faster speeds that maybe a little bit more fuel could be consumed. So we might see drivers on pit road a little sooner in this duel than we did in duel number 1.
That's true, and I think the pit window is already open for this. And I was actually looking back. I found it funny. Levi is actually in the very back right now.
Smart.
I think he's definitely playing this calm as could be. Is very careful as well.
Yeah, remember we were talking about RJ Bishop in the scenario of maybe wanting to help push a teammate or have a teammate win the first duel to have fellow compadre behind him when they take the green flag for the 500 on Sunday. As here we
Oh,
got
it
pit
is
stops.
early.
But in the case of Levi
Oh
McIntyre,
no.
he
Oh
has no
dear.
teammates.
Oh.
Oh no!
Oh well. I don't even know if that's going to garner a yellow
Yeah,
because they're on
it's
the apron.
below the double yellow line. Ryan Brommer, Rob Evans, Joshua Osborne. Looks like
I see
Nathan
the lights
Ormond as
green
well.
still. I
Yeah,
think we're still green.
we are
That's
still green.
Man, that's an unfortunate deal. Maybe not for these two because they avoided that. That's going to definitely break the pack up for sure.
For sure. My goodness.
Well, it was
I
a
think that answers the
relatively clean
question. They
wreck.
were a lot more aggressive on braking there coming to pit road this time than they were back in Duel 1.
Yeah, they were about 3 wide going in there. I think a couple of those drivers there were expecting, I guess, somebody to let them in potentially, or maybe they didn't know they were 3 wide, but nonetheless, kind of caused a stack up and a couple of cars spin, and definitely not going to be good for a couple of these drivers.
Well, with no caution coming out and remaining green, we stay here with the live feed. You'll see on the bottom right of your screen on the NNSCRA split cam what happened there coming to pit road as Caleb Fogler and Keith Batson. They'll
Man,
make their
Fogler
way
was
onto
being
pit lane.
aggressive. Did you see him speed up right before the
I
line?
saw
He was
that.
trying to
I
get
saw
everything he
that
could
back
get.
end want to step out there when he got on the brakes.
Now, we see the 16 here by herself, and now I'm wondering that's not necessarily a good thing. Yeah, you're the first car out, but you're going to get caught pretty quick when you're by yourself at a plate track.
Yeah, here's the
You got
bad news.
Yep.
You got 2 Fords nose to tail behind you.
Yeah, no, and the next one behind that's also a Ford. I don't see a Chevy in sight for poor Allie right here, so and they're already looking to try to get around her. They're already moving to the outside. She's thinking about blocking. Oh, she did. They're not having any of it though. Wow, actually,
Gosh.
I think they know the situation now, and Allie did what she was supposed to do. And there's the 2 leaders there, also a couple of Fords. Not looking good for her in terms of manufacturer help for sure.
Not sure
but
where those 2, Fogler and Batson, are going to cycle out to. Noticing these 2, Mitchell Collins and Charles Sanford, they're starting to get themselves nose to tail. You had a group of 3, I think, back behind them, Chevrolets and Kyle Matthews, Anthony McCurry, and Joshua Osborne. I'm not going to lie, I kind of think that right now we may have a better chance of Group 2 reeling in Group 1 than we did back in the first duel. And I think a big reason for that might be because of the higher speeds we're carrying with the overcast conditions. We'll have to wait and see, though.
And they also going to have an extra couple laps because they did pit earlier than the first dual race. We saw people pitting about this lap. So they're going to have a little bit extra time to get formed up and to work together and kind of see what happens there. And this is also not helping the front pack.
Definitely going to help second pack.
Well,
saw back there that entire second pack was single file going through 1 and 2.
Yeah, this is not going to be good for them. Well, as you say that, they're all going to... Well, actually, I'm looking at the Chevys. I think are trying to dispose of the Fords, but it's also vice versa because they had nothing to do with the 28 there. Kyle Matthews and Joshua Osborne just went right under the 28 there. Caleb Fogler. And, you know, they're co-champions. Well, I don't think they own out any love lost for that 28. They're sharing a title together, basically, and I don't think maybe we're trying to one-up each other, you know?
How much do you think that's going to be in the back of the mind of Kyle Matthews and Caleb Fogler this season when they're racing side by side of, hey, we were co-champions last season, but not this year. This year we're enemies.
It could be a friendly competition for sure. I mean, it's kind of like you look at wrestling, like a tag team. You know, somebody may say, well, maybe I'm the better partner or the better team member. I want to one up my partner, you know? It's not really the case anymore with those two in this situation, but definitely think they would want to one up each other and see who's really the better driver, at least for the season.
We saw a couple of drivers really improve their position in the first duel. Michael Norman and Jessica Shelton most notably. Got a big chance here for Jesse Turner and Ali Liera to do the same. Liera would have been 34th for the Daytona 500 starting grid based off of pole day qualifying. Right now she is in line to be 8th. And yeah, to your point, Jesse Turner would have started shotgun on the field and right now would be slated to be 6th on the grid behind current race leader Jose Mills.
And Jose Mills is, I think they actually started this race in, looks like 5th place, so they're trying to maintain their spot there. And here's the second pack. Let's just look at the time. I think these guys have broken the 44th. I think the leaders were at 45. So
I think, well, I'm not sure. I think it was a 44.8 I saw for Jose Mills and a 44.9 for Osborne. So I'm not certain what happened there on that last lap, but they lost about a tenth, it seems.
This pack has the opportunity to catch them, but the bad news is they're just really wanting to race it up too much here, and I think the blend of Chevys and Fords is not helping the situation because
All right,
they don't
there
want
you
to
go.
work with
They
these
gained
other
2
ones.
tenths that time. Keith Batson of 44.7 to the
Are you able to
almost a 45, a 44.9 there for Jose Mills. So they're making a
Wait.
little bit of headway.
Are they showing an interval? Are you able to see what the gap is between third and fourth right now?
It's showing 2.8 seconds from Mills back to Batson.
And we're going to be under 10 to go pretty soon here, so maybe got to chip away here as much as they can, not run out of time. For the most part, these guys are staying single file in the second group. They get one or two cars every now and again that gets kicked out of line, but I think there is a chance, I think, they have to get up here and potentially do that.
If they can get about 1.2 to 1.5 seconds off the back of the 16, they will be within draft range.
There's a 44.5 right there. So that was there's a 44.3 for McCurry. Yeah, I think these guys are definitely catching up. And you can see the leaders. Oh, yeah. Half a second faster that time. Yeah, they're definitely gaining. So we're going to have a race, I think, this time.
Yep, they just cut down 3 tenths, down to 2.5 seconds from 2.8.
And the problem in this group here, the 16 has not been able to really tag along with the two Fords right now. And Allie's really not, she's the last car in the pack, so she's not really getting any help, and it's hard for her to stay with the top two. So Mills and Turner are just trying their best to kind of hook up and stay together.
And Turner can only stay behind the 38, glued to the 38 for so long before he's got to start keeping an eye on the water temps and peeking out, which breaks that tight draft.
Yeah, and they see the time again. There's a 44.8 there for the leader. I see them race. Oh, well, that's not helping anything right now. Wow.
No, not at all.
I was about to say they may be gaining on them, but they actually ran slower, but this is the reason. And there's another pack actually catching them, I think. There's about 4 cars running single file, it looks like. They're kind of closing. That could be a big game changer.
Rick Johnson, Levi McIntyre in this group.
There's your pole sitters hanging around.
Yep.
Well, these guys actually, I think, are going to catch that other group. So, depending on that, if that happens, if they get kind of lined up, they really can make a run at the leaders. I mean, there's only 3 of them.
Does more cars make them faster, or does it muddy the waters more for drivers to want to take this double and 3 wide?
Well, I guess we'll wait and see. See what some of these lap times are. They're dropping to 45s. The leaders may actually be faster at this moment.
It's like, again, about 2.6 seconds.
Oh,
It was pretty much stationary from this group of 3 back to that second group.
The interval's still about the same.
They didn't lose, but the thing they did lose was a lap. They lost 2.5 miles there of being able to run down this top trio.
I thought I saw a car up ahead that may be a straggler. It could have been one of the cars involved. Yeah, that was Rob Evans. He was one of the cars that spun. He looks like he's mostly up to speed. I don't know if he's going to be a factor or not in this, but he might. They're on the same straightaway, so that could actually cause problems.
Well, they're going to catch him pretty quick, and they're going to have a lot more momentum. I mean, Mills was 198 crossing the line there. Evans is running 183 going into the corners. That's over 10 miles per hour difference. They're going to blow by him when they catch him.
It was almost 4 seconds slower just on their lap times as well. That tells you how much the draft really means to them. And I think Allie may have heard us because she definitely started picking up, really getting on the back bumpers of the 2 leaders. But then we got this going on back here.
Yeah, unless those top 3 start racing it up, I think that you're looking right now at the battle for 4th here in this duel because there's just so many cars, so many runs being generated. You know, it sounds easy. It sounds simple to be able to run single file, but there is so much checkup that takes place when you are single file at a super speedway. So drivers getting those runs.
Yeah, Rob Evans came up right in front of Jose Mills and cost him the lead right there. I don't think he was going to lose the lead potentially there if it hadn't been for that 65. Now, all of a sudden, from last to first, Jesse Turner now finds himself in the lead.
I'm not necessarily certain Rob Evans was trying to get the 47 to the lead. I think he might have been trying to help his teammate Ali Liera. I mean, Evans right now looks like he's going to be. Yeah, exactly. So I'm wondering, you know, he knows he's going to be starting shotgun on the field after that issue on pit road. So maybe trying to do everything in his power to get the 16 the win here in this duel.
Man, you know, that 38 car, they're going to probably have a talk on pit road with the 65, those 2 drivers. And
wait a minute.
I see a second pack
I do too, and they got a ton of momentum.
I think that Rob Evans checkup really held up that front pack, so we may actually have a race after all.
We might. It's still, 4 to go when they hit the line that last time by, so yeah.
Oh, Jose Mills got around Ali right there too. So now the teammates are lined up behind them with the 65 and the 16. Now it's going to get interesting.
Oh, now they're racing too. I was going to say, if these top 4 remain single file, that was going to be bad news for pack number 2. But with them racing right now, oh boy.
The 65 is definitely going to be like a
Oh, they
wild
got the
card in this
draft. Oh, they
situation.
definitely got the draft. Fastest lap for Joshua Osborne laid down right there,
Last time by.
44.195. That is a draft lap. He has caught the whiff of the slipstream off that 16. Look at
Jose
the
Mills,
run
I think-
he's got
wow.
to the tri-oval.
Well, he may have. Oh, there's a 43. Wow. Yeah, we got a race now.
This thing is not over. We've now gone from a 3-car battle to a 14-car battle in this lead group.
And then we got the wild card here, the Kurt Busch of the field being a lap down Rob Evans with teammate Ali Liera right behind. Well, about that, I think they are trying to hold off that 27. That 27 had a full head of steam, and I think just had to back off there, and he may have just lost his chance, unfortunately. Anthony McCurry did not go with him there.
Jose Mills has got a strong car. He's been out in front for 9 circuits, the most of anybody here in this duel, but he'll see 2 to go this time by, and he's got a plethora of drivers that want that victory. Here comes Anthony McCurry to the inside for second, and there's a Michael Norman Motorsports Ford. Mitchell Collins looking to move into third going into turn 1.
And unfortunately, looked like the big loser out of this shuffle. Oh,
Carlo,
McCurry.
38.
Oh, McCurry had to check up. That's all that helped the 33. Mitchell Collins now to the lead. I was going to say the big loser, unfortunately, out of this shuffle was Jesse Turner, who was in prime position to get a great starting spot. Now he's basically last in this pack back there in that 47.
Got the 40.
And we got a Toyota here.
Moving up there to try and draft the 33. That's going to help Collins keep Ryan Brommer at bay, but Keith Batson kind of falling on his sword for a fellow blue ovalist. He's now going to drop back outside of the top 3 and more than likely outside of the top 5 here by the time they get to the start-finish line.
And we're coming to the white flag here, and Brommer is not wasting any time. Goes for the lead at the
Kyle
line.
Matthews right there. Anthony McCurry. Mills got back down to the bottom. He's got a teammate, and Caleb Fogler right behind him.
This is about to get wild, I think, here for this win.
Who's going to make the moves down the back straightaway? We might see 3 wide or 4 wide here if a lane is open. Ooh, McCurry wanted to go
trying to
low.
block.
Mills said,
Well,
nope, I'm there.
I thought that might be the best case scenario for Matthews, but he's going to have to come down. That 38's got a heck of a run. He's not going to be able to do it.
And a teammate. Caleb Fogler right there with him, the Blue Oval Automotive
champions.
Machines.
And there's our pole sitter, Levi McIntyre.
He says, I want to play in this as well. Mills moves up. Fogler stays with him, and Jose Mills is going to win duel number 2. That was a strong 38. He led the most laps, dropped back, and he worked his way back up to the front very quickly.
And overcame the 65 car getting in front of him there, Rob Evans. Kind of had to overcome that hurdle. And the fact that we didn't see a lot of drivers that were able to kind of get out of line and then get back quickly to the inside. He found a spot, and he took advantage of it and put him right in prime position and led him to get in the win. How about that?
What a job by the Blue Oval Automotive teammates there. Caleb Fogler could have made the move to try and win this race, but it looked like he was pretty committed to pushing the 38 across the start-finish line. And because of that, we're going to have 5 Fords up inside of the top 6 for the starting lineup of the Daytona 500. McIntyre preserves his outside front row starting spot. Bishop preserves his pole sitting starting spot, and Michael Norman winning the earlier first duel.
Yeah, as I say, those Fords are definitely showing their strengths for sure. They definitely look like the favorites right now, and they seem to be working the best as well. It seems like a real life thing, and I guess also in our thing, they kind of work together. And the 38 having the 28 right behind him there was, I think, all he needed right there in that situation.
Ford only has 1 victory in the Daytona 500 in its career. Might be looking at its 2nd based on what happens this coming Sunday. Here's a look at the finishing results, and credit Levi McIntyre there at the end. I mean, we saw him for most of that race just kind of ride towards the back. We saw him riding towards the back of the 2nd pack after the pit stop cycles were over, but then all of a sudden he seemed to get really brave and say, you know what, let's see what this 99 can do.
Yeah, for sure, and kind of just snuck up there at the end. That honestly was a good opportunity to see maybe where to place yourself if you're there at the end in the 500. Kind of just place yourself and just kind of see where the runs are and everything, and it almost worked out for Levi. He almost came back and stole this and won this, so...
Kyle Matthews going to be the big winner as far as improving his starting position. He was slated to roll off 40th on the grid prior to this duel, with finishing inside of the top 5. He will be 10th in the starting lineup. Another driver looks like also benefited, although not quite to the degree that I think he would have wanted was Jesse Turner. He would have started shotgun on the field, and with finishing 12th, he'll be up in 24th. So that's about, what,
A little
18
bit of a
spots that he
gain.
gained right there in
Yeah,
the
like I
span
said,
of 30 laps. So not bad.
yeah, we talked about at the beginning of the race. He had nothing but to gain. He had nothing to lose, all to gain, and he definitely gained some. He was leading there under 10 to go, and he thought he wanted to stay there. But once that second pack showed up, Joshua Osborne led the charge on the second pack. It was all over, I think, for those leaders, except for the actual winner, Jose Mills, who found a way to stay in that pack and avoid getting shuffled out and ended up winning. But definitely probably going to go give a congratulatory handshake or a hug to that 28 car. I think Fogler definitely was a big key in him winning that.
And to your point, maybe have some words with the driver of the 65, Rob Evans, who is
Yeah.
obviously the biggest loser in terms of where he would have started for the 500. Finishing last in this duel means he will start shotgun on the field. Evans was 4th in tonight's starting lineup and was 8th quickest in pole day qualifying. So a huge loss there for the 65 team. But again, kind of take heart for that team, because we saw, even though it was 21 cars in these duels, we saw you could work your way from the back of the pack to the front very quickly, very early on. So, you know, take that experience and maybe put it to use once the green flag flies this Sunday.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's going to be interesting. I think these drivers definitely learned a lot for this, and now we've seen a couple different weather conditions. It seems like the racing really ramps up if we get an overcast, which I almost kind of want to see now, just to see what we get with a full field. It could be complete chaos, but I mean, we saw the runs, how fast they were going, and just everything. The blocking was obviously very aggressive for a lot of drivers, but nonetheless, that second one was pretty intense there at the end. Looking forward to it. Won't be up here, unfortunately, for that. I'll be down there having to kind of figure it out for myself and everything, and it's probably going to be wild. That's what I've seen.
And you are now seeing on your screen the starting lineup based off of the finishing results here from the duels for the Daytona 500. Obviously, as mentioned, a whole bunch of Fords up there. Bishop and McIntyre the front row. Norman and Mills behind them in row 2. You've got a Toyota muddying the waters, and Noah Hendrickson. He'll be the final driver inside of the top 5 with Caleb Fogler's Ford alongside him in the 6th position. And again, I guess the good news for all these drivers, regardless of if you start up at the front or start at the back, with us not having the charter system, not having the 3 drivers per car like we had last season, all 42 drivers that took part in the pole day qualifying in the duels, whether they finished the race on the lead lap, finished the race at all, they're all going to get to participate this Sunday.
Yeah, that's true. And I think other than a couple of bumps here and there on that pit stop there with a couple cars spinning, I think most of the teams are super happy to have a clean, almost fully complete car coming back to the garage and being prepared for the 500. So I think that was a big relief. But now it's time to mark the attention over to the main race, the Daytona 500, and everything's going to be on the line. Everybody wants to win this event, the biggest race this season right off the bat, and it's going to be a crazy race, I think. Everybody's going to be going for it for sure.
It's time to go to work. All the exhibition races are done. The next time we see you, it's the Daytona 500. Points are on the line. A potential playoff spot for the race winner could be on the line.
That is true.
We've been 5 for 5 in past Duracell Cup Series seasons, where the Daytona 500 winner or Daytona 500 winning team, in the case of last season, made the playoffs. So, is it a guaranteed lock-in? The statistics say it is. That might be something drivers will have in the back of their mind as well. But I mean, forefront is everybody wants to win the Great American Race, and we hope that you guys will join us for that. That will be coming this Sunday. Green flag scheduled to fly at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Dylan, it's been great to have you here for Speed Weeks. We had you this past Sunday for pole day qualifying, here tonight for the duels. Appreciate you joining me in the booth.
Yeah, it was fun. Also being in third person with myself, that I just tried to ignore, but here I am anyway. But it was definitely fun to watch, and looking forward to the 500. We've seen from the racing and stuff, it's definitely going to be entertaining. I think everybody's going to be excited to watch this. The teams, the fans, everybody are going to be excited. The drivers are going to be amped up, ready to go. Now they got a little bit of practice in the cars, and maybe they saved some tricks for the 500 they didn't really show their card today. So we're going to see that. I think we're going to see a very impactful race, definitely, when it comes to Sunday for the 500. And I'm looking forward to it as well.
Should be a good one for sure. Congratulations once again to Michael Norman and Jose Mills, your dual winners here today at Daytona. And thank you to everybody that tuned in to this broadcast. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe, become part of the crew today. You already saw your Daytona 500 starting lineup, and you'll see that lineup roll off the grid this Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But once again, my thanks to Dylan Poteet for being here in the booth. I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you guys this Sunday for the 6th annual running of the Duracell Cup Series Daytona 500. Until then, you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of NNSCRA TV, offline racing at its best.
Bye.